Hello, everybody. Just checking on some echoes here before we start the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Who do we got? We are live. It's 7:02. All right. So if you guys listened to our show on Thursday that we dropped our discussion about Kevin Conroy and Batman the Animated Series. The Shanti and Josh were making fun of my radio voice, so I'm just going to try to talk regular now and make sure that I don't get made fun of anymore. And I hope you did watch. I hope you did listen to that episode. We had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun listening to it for the first time. I wasn't on it. It was just Shanti, our patron, the Frank, and Josh, Sith Care Bear. All right, let's get started here. Seems like I haven't gone live in a while, but what is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here at the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Look at all those wonderful people in the chat. We got Nicole. We got our moderator, Lunar Girl, Kelly. Thank you very much for joining us. Merisha's in there. Danny, Amanda, Nicole. Yeah, people are starting to come in. I have a pinned, what do you call it? A pinned chat thingy up on top. Please don't forget to subscribe and follow us on all the socials. I also put up our friends science fiction, sci_fictionary and Radio Rebel podcast up there. So please order your drinks, come on up, and we will get started right away. But we're going to be talking about Willow, a little bit about the movie, and a lot of the series that just dropped. We've got 2 episodes of Willow that dropped, the series, which we will be talking about. We have wonderful guests, Andrew and Merisha, as I mentioned, and Alberto. We've been trying to get him on the show for about, I would say, about a year. So his show drops. His show is on Saturdays as well, so that's a lot of fun. A couple of hours before ours. Everybody, please come on in. All right, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this introduction in Spanish. Ready? Just because, you know, we need to be inclusive, right? Bienvenido a otro programa bien divertido, otro capítulo de el Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, nuestra edición en vivo, ScarifLIVE. Tenemos unos amigos que les voy a presentar después de esto. No se me vayan.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Holy moly, what's up, everybody? Let me put our guests up on top because that's the polite thing. There you go. Alberto, Andrew, Merisha. What's up, gang?
Not much. Glad to be here, though.
Yeah, we've been enjoying Willow.
Oh, good.
Sí. Gracias por esa introducción en español. Me tiraste al medio que no vengo más de un año que me dice, pero aquí estamos. Back in English. So thanks for the invite. Ready to talk Willow and whatever comes.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Let me adjust some lighting here, but yeah, thank you guys. I said earlier on that I wanted to talk a little bit about the movie, just to kind of give our audience a little, I don't know, a little introduction about, why Willow was made, I guess. Andrew, you usually have all these fun facts. Willow was released in what year? Quickly.
With you. Was it 84?
Yeah, I want to say 88.
Is it that late?
Yeah.
Yep. I checked right before we started, so
Oh,
yeah.
good.
88.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna check.
I normally
But
have a lot of facts, but Willow's one I don't have a lot of facts on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so 1988. Wow. And it's many years later, and we get a kind of a sequel series for Willow, directed by Ron Howard. And I know I saw his name in the credits during the Willow executive producer for this series as well. But let's go back to 1988, and Alberto, tell me a little bit about what you remember about the actual movie.
Oh, all right. So 1988, I was turning 8 years old, so trying to figure it out. No, I remember because I watched it when I was a kid, when it came out. I remember watching it then, and I'll probably watch it maybe once or twice afterwards. And then I rewatched it about 2 weeks ago, just before the series came out, just to kind of have it fresh in my mind. But what I remember from way back then, the only thing I remember is that Warwick Davis was there. He used to be an Ewok on Star Wars, so there's that connection. And I remember that Val Kilmer was stuck on this hanging cage. And that's the only thing I remembered. And then I'm glad that when I rewatched it 2 weeks ago, those scenes were still there and didn't imagine it. So that was kind of my history with it, or what I remember. I knew it was a fantasy movie from way back when.
Sure.
That time period wise, I don't know, almost 30 some years ago, kind of groundbreaking, some of the special effects that they had.
Right.
But I didn't remember this story really before rewatching it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that I really enjoy Willow. Obviously, it's a tale that comes from the mind of obviously our favorite Star Wars director here, George Lucas, and directed by Ron Howard, as I mentioned. It is because I love the technical aspect of movie making. Willow really is, I guess, stuck in my brain for a lot of that reasons. They started doing, I don't know how many shows I've been on talking about Willow. I was on Geeky Crochet once, and I think didn't we do a Willow episode with you guys? I don't know. So we were like on. I've been talking about Willow for forever, it seems like. But the morphing technology that ILM did during that time was really fascinating. And like I said, I love all the technical aspects that Willow introduced to filmmaking and stuff like that. And I think it was kind of a very I think it was a simple story, but it was a story and a movie that kind of played with our youth, the spirit of adventure and stuff like that. Very similar to the Ewok movies back in the day when they were on TV. Just this adventure, this group of characters. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed about the movies. Andrew, Merisha, what about you guys?
So for me, I was also 8 years old when this came out, and you just mentioned the Ewok movies, and that's something that I kind of closely associate in my mind is things like is the Ewok movies, the animated Lord of the Rings movies, the Hobbit, that kind of stuff. That was really my introduction to fantasy worlds.
Yeah.
And so it's one that I used to watch periodically if it was on TV. I've never had it in my collection or anything, but it's one I've always enjoyed watching. It's as far as fantasy worlds, one of the things I hope to see in this show is them flesh this world out some, because it's a fantasy world that's never been fully fleshed out. And I'd love to see more of that. The movie leaves you with a lot more questions than answers about the world itself. But I enjoyed it. Now, Merisha just saw it for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't see it as a kid. I was like a year and a half old when it came out. So, I kind of missed it. And I didn't really get into fantasy till I was a teenager. And we didn't really have a TV, so I missed a lot of things.
You had a lot of things going against you there.
I missed a few things there. But yeah, we watched it, I guess, a couple of months ago. We watched it with all of our kids and all of my sister's kids, and it was really interesting because my youngest niece was 4, and then the older girls were almost 13. So, we had a pretty broad age range of kids we were watching it with, and it was really a hit with everybody. We were kind of concerned it might be a little scary for the little
Sure,
one, a little maybe a little juvenile for the older girls, but everybody really seemed to engage with it. So that was fun.
Yeah, my 4-year-old laughed at all the things that I thought were going to scare her.
Yeah,
so.
we were really trying to make sure we didn't traumatize somebody else's 4-year-old. So we're like, is it scary or is it bothering? And you're just going, ha ha, every time.
It's also an interesting look at like what we consider scary now. Like as a kid, it was kind of scary, but like my kids hardly reacted to it.
Yeah,
because they've seen things like Lord of the Rings that look so much more realistic.
Sure.
And, so they were hardly phased at all.
Yeah. Kids I have 2 kids, 12 and 9, and they watch Lord of the Rings and they're fine with it. But some other stuff that I don't think is scary, they get scared with. So it's tricky. But my kids, they didn't watch it with me when I watched it this past time. They might have just walked in and out. But I agree with Andrew and Merisha. There's some scenes watching them now, I'm like, oh, I don't know when I was 8 if I would have gotten scared, because I didn't expect it to be not as scary. It's not a scary movie, but it does have some images, and some of those creature designs can scare a kid out there.
Yeah, like the dogs that chase the little people and grab their babies. That's pretty scary. But speaking of the story here, we've got as we know, George Lucas likes to borrow his story points from literature and folklore and old stories. I definitely got like a Moses vibe from this story for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
The chosen child in the river. I mean,
sure. Yeah.
That one's been told before.
Right. How much more Exodus can you get? Right.
Right.
But what is it about? I don't want to get into a big, deep philosophical George Lucas discussion, but I think it's kind of genius to have him pull from stories that we already know and just kind of maybe switching things up a little bit. Obviously, Star Wars is a similar story. It's not, when we're talking about the original movie, it's not a groundbreaking story. It's got elements that we know, and he's made all his films a little bit more universal than most, I think, and I think that's partly why. Are there any going back to the movies? Are there any characters that really stood out? Obviously, we've got the Warwick Davis who plays Willow. But any other characters beside that you guys really thought were pretty cool? Alberto?
Of course, Val Kilmer. You can't go wrong with him, especially late 80s. Val Kilmer, come on, he's great in that role. Just the way he plays it, from when we meet him in that cage, then when he's in this other village dressed as a woman, just so he doesn't get caught because he's with this guy's girlfriend or whatever, and all the way to the end. And he's this character, I don't want to say Han Solo type, but you don't know where he's going to fall. Is he really going to help them? He's just going to look out for himself. So that's a great character that a lot of us can connect with. And of course, having Warwick Davis and Willow being this main character, we usually don't see, especially back then, people like him, little people not in costumes or playing elves or dwarves, just you're a character and going this heroic journey. That kind of resonates with a lot of people. Like we said, like in Star Wars, anyone can be a hero, right? So those two, at least for me, and some of the other characters, I don't remember the name, the other even smaller people that are with him, just the funny relief in the movie, they were great also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking when we were watching, I guess I was watching back through it. I like to watch something more than once before I talk about it if I can. And I was kind of thinking about that same thing. You just don't see a whole, like we've gotten to where in movies we see, a more diversity. People don't all necessarily look the same, but most of them tend to be about the same height, right? You don't tend to see a lot of stature here, and so I was thinking, this is something cool that this is going to be kind of normal for my kids as this kind of becomes more normal in entertainment, that we can see, even more diversity And I think I'm pretty excited for them for that they won't, watch it and be like, oh, that's strange, that'll just be kind of their normal growing up experience. So
Yeah, and I think
like that.
that's I love that, and I think that's one of the things, or one of the reasons that I really like fantasy and science fiction, because it's not, it's definitely think outside the box. It's a think outside the box genre. You've got, you got tall aliens, you got small creatures, you got, inanimate objects that talk. I mean, whatever your imagination comes up with. I think it frees your mind, or at least it helps young people free their minds. Again, talking about George Lucas and creating new fables for young people. I think as adults sometimes, and obviously we see it on Twitter, I think we lost a lot of that innocence. We lost a lot of the sense of adventure. And I think I like the fact that Willow, although it's 2022 and the movie came out in 1988. I'm glad that something like Willow is out to kind of inspire imagination. And I am definitely looking forward to more world building, because we left this world in 1988 and it seemed like a lot of fun. But what I don't know if there's anything else that we want to kind of touch on the Willow movie. If you guys want to just jump into the series, anything else about the movie?
I would just say, like, as a kid watching this, Mad Mardigan was always my favorite character.
Sure.
But rewatching it as an adult, I appreciate Warwick Davis's part in this a whole lot more. Like, he was 17 years old when he did this.
Yeah.
Like, he did a really, really fantastic job with it. A really underrated job with it.
I would agree. Yeah.
I'll add before we move on. I think Sosha, also watching it a few weeks ago, I didn't remember the character, and she was great. Again, this villain, we have a female villain that we didn't get back then, which kind of the normal now that we get those type of characters. So back then we didn't get it. And she played it great. Same thing as Matt Mardigan. You don't know where she was going to fall. And she just did it great. And I'm glad that she's still playing this part now, 30-some years later, when the series started with her. So it's great to see that transition. But she was great in the movie.
Yeah, and she was an interesting female villain, because, I mean, like, the Wicked Witch is fairly typical, right? So the evil queen, right? We see that a lot. But she wasn't. She was something altogether different. And so a little ahead of its time there, I think.
Yeah,
in that way.
So let's dive into the series. We get 2 episodes of the series, and I didn't know what to expect. Getting into, coming out of the movie, I thought, okay, cool, because you equate certain groupings of genre. You've got, Lord of the Rings and that aspect of things, and I kind of clump these two together, because you've got, it's more of an organic fantasy rather than like Star Wars is very technical and very out there, a little more mix of science fiction, because it is in space and you got spaceships. But this world, very similar to Lord of the Rings, I'm thinking, but it's more organic. The characters, I guess, in the series, I felt were a little bit more down to earth. I was very excited, watching the first episode there. I love how they took their time to introduce or reintroduce Willow. We didn't spend a lot of time, or we didn't, I guess we didn't show Willow at first. It was a little bit of a mystery, like, okay, well, where is Willow? It's his series. So I kind of like that. But what did you guys think of the other characters before we get to Willow? Was there anyone that, any of the characters that kind of stood out for you guys? And what were your first impressions, I guess? Let's get to that. What are your first impressions?
I'll go. I really enjoyed it. First episode, like you said, I didn't know what to expect. I watched the original, the first trailer that came out, and maybe the second one, but I didn't watch a lot of it. I don't know. Not that I didn't want to get spoiled, but I wasn't just going through everything that was out there, so I didn't know what to expect. I knew they was going to focus a lot on the new characters, but I didn't expect Willow not to be there till like the last 5 or 10 minutes of that first episode. It was great because it starts giving you a quick recap of what the movie was, and we start again with Sorsha, so there's a little bit of connection there. Real quick, I did enjoy all the new characters we got, some more than others. I think Boorman, it's my favorite so far. I love his delivery, his comedic timing is great. But he's the one that I gravitated to. It's great seeing Erin Kellyman there and Ness in another series. And I like that dynamic that she has with Kit, I guess is the princess.
Right.
And that's, again, it's like you said, this is Lord of the Rings, but for maybe an even younger crowd, which is fine. But I'm glad that now Disney Plus has this fantasy series that we can all enjoy. We have a very serious one in HBO with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragons, Prime Video with Rings of Power and Wheel of Time. This kind of reminds me a little bit Wheel of Time. Yeah. And then Netflix, of course, Witcher, very adult, and I think Shadow and Bone, which is kind of YA. And Willow is kind of a little bit younger, kind of going to teenagers, but that same as the movie, we can all enjoy that this family adventure. And I think the introduction of the new characters work well. There's none, at least so far, that say, I don't like this character, the way it's written, the way it's acted, whatever. But if I'm picking one right now and go with Boorman, he's my favorite one so far.
Yeah.
Wait, you stole my favorite.
Sorry. Character. All right, I'll change. I'll go with.
No, I agree. I think he's going to be a really fun character. I think he's our most Mad Mardigan kind of character. Here, he's I mean, we meet him in jail, so I think he's going to go some interesting places. And
it's been interesting because he seems the actor's doing a really good job of interacting, not just with one character. Like it seems like whoever he's on screen with, that he carries the scene.
Like it seems like he's got good chemistry with everybody, which it doesn't seem possible. But he kind of like, you're like, oh look, this is going to be his kind of pairing. You're like, oh no, well maybe it's this person. He kind of seems to have that dynamic going on.
What's his background? Did we get any clues as to, because the connection with these characters are so well, it's so well established. And I don't know if it's well established in our minds because, he seems to be a great actor and he's playing this role wonderfully. Do we know if that character has worked with these people before?
Well, he was Mad Mardigan's squire, we know.
Okay.
But he's a thief and a treasure hunter and was Mad Mardigan's squire when he went treasure hunting. So, I mean, clearly he has history. I mean, it seems like he kind of has history with everybody we've met so far. Yeah. He's got history with the Bone Reavers. He's obviously got history with Sorsa. Presumably has at least some history with Willow. So,
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And the fact that we get introduced to him and he's sitting in jail for some odd reason, but the queen is buddies with him. I find that fascinating too.
Yeah, we don't know, right, why he's in prison. We get this notion that Mad Mardigan went on this quest, or he just left his family, he died somewhere, he's lost, he wants to save the baby instead of being with his daughter. But then episode 2 is that Boorman was his squire that we learned in episode 1 was kind of with him, helping him out. So yeah, there's that history we still don't know. And if she in jail in the castle because of something that happened with Mardigan, I'm guessing, or like Andrew and Merisha said, Sorsha has this relationship with him, goes for him for advice, and of course at the end kind of frees him just to go help and find her son. So yeah, it's very interesting to learn that background whenever we get it, but I don't think we know too much at the moment to make any connections.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to talk about it later, not now. The Mad Mardigan predictions. They're setting something up, and I think as the story unfolds, if they do what I think they're going to do, it should be pretty interesting. I also felt a really great chemistry, like you said, Alberto, with between Jade and Kit. We get introduced to those two characters, and they're doing a little practice, sword play on the side of the mountain there.
Mhm.
And then later on, you obviously, we find out that, they have an attraction towards each other, these two characters. But Kit is going to be married off, et cetera, et cetera. Merisha, I posted something that you responded to regarding the acting and the whole CW situation that somebody had mentioned. And I think I kind of agreed a little bit because, I think that first, I don't know, the first act of the first episode to me was a little CW-ish. And I think only because there were like a lot of like young actors like playing in there, and that's kind of like what it reminded me. Doesn't bother me per se because I'm really into the story. I want to know what's going on, and I think for me, I think right now, after the 2 episodes, I'm really enjoying what the characters are doing. I'm really enjoying the quest. There's some things I think in the second episode that didn't quite fly for me. Even with the trailer that dropped a couple of months ago, I started to notice the humor, and everybody knows that I'm not really into like that MCU humor, like in everything. It's like, all right, come on already. But what did you guys think about that aspect of the show? I called it a CW-ish, and what did Danny says? The worst curse to put on any show is call it a little CW-ish.
It's definitely not a compliment when someone says that. And I say that, I like some of the DC stuff on CW, but so I mean, I think that Tina has said really kind of what I think about it here in the chat. It's campy. It really walks up to those lines of being a little bit campy, but the movie did that too, and it would almost be out of place if you suddenly went from what the movie was to like a high fantasy setting like Lord of the Rings, and there are things that bother me. The way they speak, I'm having a little trouble. I like my fantasy.
Modern.
It's too modern. I like my fantasy immersive. And but I mean, it's one of those things. As time goes, if the story's good, I'll get over it.
Yeah.
But just kind of immediate reaction to it, kind of having multiple very modern dialects going on. I think that's one of the things in a fantasy setting I actually like about Borman the most. I think his accent and the way he speaks fits the best in a fantasy setting.
Sure.
They could have gone and done like Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings. I'm sure House of the Dragon. I'm sure even Wheel of Time have dialect coaches, on set. They clearly didn't do any of that. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest hang up with the show, is that I'm having a little trouble feeling immersed in this world.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you there. I think I was I think by the second episode I did get used to it, but like I said, it's because I started to really like the characters, their interaction. I liked where the story was going. My brain started to kind of think about predictions. What are we going to see next, and so forth. I was just scrolling through the cast here, and I was not aware. And his name, his character's name is not listed here, but it says Christian Slater's in it.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I think he's going to show up late in the series at some point, but I'm really like, they're the only character. So I think that Joanne Whalley is doing a great job as Sorsha. I'm having a little trouble. Like there's some things I'm kind of having some hangups with decisions that the character is making. When we see the flashback where she's basically telling Willow, hey, who cares about the prophecy that we spent that whole first movie fighting for? We'll just throw that away and we'll do it. We'll find another way to do it.
Is that when she says, Willow, you are not a great sorcerer? And then she walks out, and then he walks out.
Yeah.
Man, that's not nice at all.
Is that a flashback or a flash forward?
Yeah, I think it's
It's a
flashback.
flashback.
Because when she's a little girl, when Alora's a little girl.
Oh, that's
'cause
right.
He goes outside and
He's got the beard and the facial hair.
Yeah. Other
Old man
characters.
Willow.
The only other character I've really had any issue with, and I think the actress is playing the character the way it's meant to be played, but I really just the Kit character just rubs me the wrong way. Like,
she's so mean.
Yeah.
And not in a like funny way. It's just
Yeah.
like, you have to be so mean all the time. Maybe it's because I have teenagers and they spend so much time saying, you don't have to be so mean all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Like,
You guys don't feel that Kit, because she is kind of a princess that's being married off. I mean, she's bitter, obviously, about.
yeah, no, I
like,
get it. I just
yeah,
I get the character. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't blame the actress at all. I think it's the
Sure.
way the character's written.
Yeah.
It's just that you kind of jump in this, and this is our band of heroes, and you kind of want to like everybody.
right.
But right now, there's not really anything personality-wise to like about her.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
you got to start your hero's journey somewhere.
Mhm.
it's true.
You can start here. You can. So for me, I saw your CW comment when you posted it. I didn't feel that way for this show, 'cause I've watched some recent CW shows, and you can tell.
On purpose?
I'm just waiting probably for something that was coming afterwards. But yeah, it's not that. But like you said, these are young characters,
Yeah.
and they're behaving like young characters. So I think some of the dialogue kind of makes sense. But I didn't pick up on it as I was watching it, but listening to you guys, I do kind of understand the dialect thing. Like, it doesn't feel maybe like a fantasy world.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me, but I can see how some people might kind of rub them the wrong way or kind of throw them off a little bit. I will say I agree a little bit with Andrew in terms of some of the decisions, not just with Sorsha, but Kit and even Jade, because they have this great relationship apparently, and then one decision kind of throws everything. Oh, because you're always thinking about yourselves, like, well, this is the first time that you guys have disagreed. Well, I'm gonna go do this, and if you really knew what I was like of you whatever, you wouldn't be asking me to choose between you and the queen. It's like, okay, but why are you guys arguing? This is coming out of nowhere. So those were the only things that kind of threw me off, dialogue wise and story wise. But I don't see that CW comparison, apart from, these are younger kids, but it's kind of the way it's gonna go with 16 to 18-year-old, which I guess is the character's age at this time in the show. That kind of made sense to me.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that, like, largely, like, I kind of tried to step back and look at the dialogue and say, is it the dialogue or is it the way they're speaking?
Yeah.
I don't think it's the dialogue, which would be where I would make a CW comparison if the dialogue was just bad.
No.
But it's not. The dialogue
Sure.
is fine. It's
Sure.
sometimes
The
the
delivery,
way they say it, the delivery, the way they say it. And like I said, it might just take me a little longer to get into this world because of that. But I don't think that's not like some sort of deal breaker for me. I think that that works really well. And I do think the relationship between Jade and Kit is going to be an interesting place of comparison, where you have Kit, who is the princess. She's kind of grown up in this shadow of this prophecy, and this almost mythical person that's going to save everything from evil, from this coming evil. So she's just kind of almost indifferent to the prophecy. Like, she doesn't care about it. Where Jade is absolutely a true believer, at least at this point.
Right.
We think she is. Which
She's the Cinta of this show.
Yeah. All for the cause.
Yep.
Everything afterwards, we'll deal with it. But right now, it's
Yep.
Yeah.
Although having, my kids and their friend group and their text chat and their squabble at the moment, and how dare you destroy our friendship over and I'm just like, so on that context, like, I can read a little bit.
Sure.
I can see the like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't want to do my, and she's kind of spoiled. And I mean, I have to say, watching it the second time, I can kind of see, like, okay, and we're going to tell you everybody's romance interest in the first 10 minutes. Like, okay, that's a little CW. I'm not going to lie. You're not totally wrong about that. It's maybe a little more interesting to, draw it out a little bit before. I mean, and I guess they kind of had to tell us straight off that Alora and Eric were going to be a thing because that's why she leaves, right?
Right.
But the fact that we kind of had to get all of our teenage characters involved with each other in episode 1, yeah, I can see that a little bit on further review,
right? Yeah,
reflection.
And how cool is it that Annabelle Davis is in there playing Willow's daughter, real life Willow, real life daughter?
She was fantastic.
Yeah, she was really great.
Has she done anything prior to this?
I was going to ask you. She has, because in her Twitter account she says she's a little actress or small actress or something like that. So I'm assuming she's done something else. The bad thing about actors of her stature, you don't a lot of times you don't see their faces because directors want them in a costume or a mask or something. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, she is very early on. She became a favorite of mine. The way she related to, kind of protected the team there. But I'm sure you guys guessed right away that Dove was going to be, Alora Dannon.
No, sorry.
It took me a minute. When she walked through the beer, I was like, oh!
Yeah.
It took me a second.
There's something there. Yeah, I mean, the first 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, can it be this one? Is it this one? You're guessing, but I don't know. I guess they duped me. It's obvious now when you think of it. Of course, the cook that works back there that don't peek through the door to look at the highball and it's gonna be the one with the prophecy, but I didn't catch on it.
And they did a good explanation as to, in the movie, the baby had red hair, and Willow, during that one little flashback scene, the last time I saw you, you had red hair. So that was kind of, a nice little explanation.
Wait, did they break canon by changing their hair? Oh, we're not gonna go into that.
Uh-oh. There you go. You didn't think
there we go.
You didn't think I was not going to use that picture.
Jesus, you've been waiting. That's the only reason you've invited me is to finally throw that line.
Oh,
they retconned it.
Yeah, they retconned it.
How dare they?
What did you guys think? Which episode did you guys feel was your favorite episode? First one or second one?
I'd say the second episode. I felt like the first episode, I think they released them together for a reason. I don't think the story really hit its stride till the second one.
Can I say the back? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say the second episode for me.
Yeah. Can I go the back half of the first one and first half of the second one, or is that cheating?
I might have to say the same thing. The thing that I didn't like, and there was a comment in the chat earlier regarding Warwick Davis's acting. I think in the second episode when he was training Dove or explaining things, to me it got a little too goofy, a little too comedic in the wagon. And, it ended up where she threw up on him. And it's like, that was like an eye roll moment for me. Again,
$30 says she's pregnant.
Ooh.
Anytime a woman throws up for no reason in a TV show or movie, she was pregnant.
Wagon sick.
She's pregnant.
Yeah. You know what though? That's actually, maybe she's gonna, deliver an Anakin style chosen one baby. And we continue this series that way. Yeah, that's something that I had not considered. Obviously,
if she throws up and it's a movie or a TV show, I'm telling you, she's pregnant.
All right, you heard it
That's
here first.
Definitely how every woman finds out she's pregnant is because she throws up for no reason.
Yeah, I think you got something there, Merisha.
On the Warwick Davis acting comment, I saw it. To me, when it was the flashbacks, it was kind of weird. It's like, it's not fitting. But the real-time thing, I didn't have an issue with it, and I really enjoyed it. When they're in his village, and he's the high Elvin, and he's going through the same ritual, it brought me right then to to
Yeah.
the movie. It reminded me a lot, and I love the way he did all his delivery. I didn't mind the comedic bits. I think Warwick Davis does a great delivery and great way of the way he does comedy. I had an issue a little with the flashbacks, but I didn't see any problems with him in the real time. Training was a little bit wonky when they were in the forest, but apart from that, I didn't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I think the training didn't bother me because I think Warwick Davis and Ellie, what's her name? Ellie Bamber. I'm looking at the list here. I think they played off of each other fairly well. She delivered her lines kind of goofily, but it kind of fit the moment. And she, to be honest with you too, she's very easy to look at.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. No, but it's funny, when Willow was training, in front of everybody, when she was being asked by Willow, which finger holds the secret, and he kept on going, yours. I mean, that was kind of funny. It was obviously a little throwback to the original.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's too funny. I would have to say that the second episode was not my favorite. I think I liked the setup, everything that was going on in the first episode, getting to know them. I think, what surprised me too is the characters that we saw in the first episode. I really connected with them a lot faster than I thought I would. And I don't know if it was because I was sitting in this nostalgic bubble of, I really liked the original Willow and I wanted to come back to this world. Seeing, Sorsha, Joanne Whaley was really fantastic. I loved her in the original. I liked her in Daredevil. And again, she's a really great actress. But I don't know, something about the first episode that I enjoyed more than the second episode, for whatever reason. But if Alberto, if we can kind of connect, the way that you had it too, I think I'll be cool with that.
Yeah, I actually thought that they did a good job with the exposition in the show. I think you could jump into it not having seen the movie,
but I think they almost had to do that.
I think so, but sometimes people don't do that well, and sometimes it's just like exposition dump. And I think they did a really nice job of giving you all the information you needed quickly enough that you understood what's going on, but not where it didn't just feel like, and now we're gonna give you the back, which is always kind of rough. So that's one thing I feel like they did a really nice job of. Honestly, the parts where I felt like Warwick Davis's acting was the weakest was whenever he was kind of standing up, kind of speechifying. But I think that was kind of the point.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be him. Totally. He's just not good. He's still not good at, public speaking.
Right.
And I think it's like you were like, oh, that comes off. That it seems off. But I think it's like it looks like bad acting. But I think that's just how he is in front of people. And so those were most of because I had the same thought. I was like, the acting isn't great, but as I was kind of looking at it a little more, I was like, yeah, I think that's the point. I think he doesn't put on a good show.
Yeah.
Still, after all these years.
So we talked about Val Kilmer and Mad Mardigan, and there was a lot of talk in both episodes, I think, of his character. Did he disappear? Did he abandon his family? Did he die? Is he still on a mission? What is he searching for? And I think they're talking about Mad Mardigan too much for them just to leave it alone. And I have, obviously, God, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say it, but I'm thinking it. And Amanda just said it. I have a feeling that they're going to do some sort of really cool, here, I'll put it up, some sort of special effect where they'll be able to bring Mad Mardigan back. Obviously, ILM, we've got all this, deep fake stuff going on. The Indiana Jones trailer just dropped, et cetera, et cetera. I have a feeling that they're going to, I want them to honor this character in this series because, obviously he popped up in the Top Gun movie.
See, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I guess that's my prediction going forward towards the end of this series, that that Mad Mardigan will show up, and we will find out, and there will be, even after all these years, obviously there will be some sort of resolution between father and daughter, or not. And I think because she's bitter about that too.
Yeah, they could have easily said that he died and just leave it at that. Then, like you said, they've mentioned it multiple times each episode to not do some type of payoff. I was at first kind of like, I don't know, because unfortunately Val Kilmer's not in the best health in real life, but he did appear in Top Gun. I'm thinking, why don't you just say that he's going to be there? It's going to be a great draw from people that love the real movie and all this. And he was great in Top Gun. Everyone loved it. But I understand for the series and for the story, it makes sense not to announce that he's going to be there. But I think what you said, Rob, might be right. Lucasfilm loves their technological breakthrough, so it wouldn't surprise me if we get more deepfake, de-aging, and now with the AI voices that they're doing, wouldn't surprise me if they go that route at some point closer to the end. Hopefully with his blessing, if he's not there personally to do any acting or provide any voices. But it's too much right there in front of us to not have a payoff at some point later in the series.
I 100% agree. If they keep saying it wasn't like, may he rest in peace.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you move on with the story.
But see, that's why it took me, that's why I had trouble like actually vocalizing that wish, because I wish, again, I'm a technical guy. I love the special effects in movies and stuff like that. And Lucasfilm and ILM are at the top of their game when it comes to stuff like that. But I think I was afraid to say it, because what if they do it and it sucks? Or what if they do it and it doesn't, it doesn't play off well? I don't know. I'm kind of torn, but but like I said, they're talking about Mad Mardigan a lot. So I would think that they would have to pay something off other than just forget about it at this point. Even 2 episodes in, there's a lot of Mad Mardigan presence in the show for whatever reason. So I hope it gets resolved.
Yeah. I mean, and technically to pay it off, we don't have to have him show up to pay it off. The rumor is that Christian Slater is playing some sort of close friend of Mad Mardigan. So even if he's died on this quest, we could still get a payoff through that. Through Christian
His
Slater's
quest
character.
after the Churus is definitely going to play in.
Yeah, for sure.
There's I guess IMDb does have his character listed, Christian Slater Allagash.
Okay.
Oh, and Danny's friend Details is in here. Julian Glover. There's a lot of actually.
Do we know how many episodes that series is gonna be? Is it 8?
Yeah, I think it was
it's
8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sad that we haven't seen the Brownies yet.
Yes, we know they're going to show up at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 2 episodes in, 6 to go, if I did my math correctly. Math is hard, of course. But any predictions for upcoming episodes? What would you guys like to see, Alberto?
Oh wow, it's difficult to say so far, because even though we're 2 episodes into it, the story hasn't moved that much further. Interesting to see where Elora's story is gonna go with, and I know it's been on the chat, I forgot the name, the guy from Spider-Man, the Prince Raiden, I think, or something.
Yes.
Yeah. He seems to have some attraction to Dove. It's going to be interesting how that plays with Eric once they find him.
Yeah.
I want to see what he's doing, because he was like another good character that got introduced. It's not just this guy that's just hooking up with different women. Apparently, he's proficient in sword fighting, so I want to see that. And like we said before, the real Willow movie had some scary moments for younger kids. I want to see more of the villains in this series. We got a little bit in that first episode. So I want to see them more involved and see where the story is going, because, okay, let's just go find my brother. yeah, that's a quest, but there has to be something more. I want to know what the actual story is going to be behind it, and get more of these characters, a little bit more than just walking and talking a little bit.
Why do you guys think that that he was captured?
I don't know.
What
That's a good
secret
one.
does he have?
I mean, I think that they told us, I think that he's got the blood of the evil queen going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hit the follow, guys.
Yes, absolutely. But I think because she said the oh shoot, what was the old queen's name?
Bad Morva, something like that.
Something bad, something other, something really on the nose.
It's Bathmora.
Bathmora, okay. Because she said that her spirit and her blood still lives in me and in you and your brother.
Yeah.
And so now why they went after him, or maybe he was just the one who
closest
was
one.
the closest, the one that they could snag. But I think that's why. I think they're trying to resurrect or channel or something. They're doing some kind of blood magic that needs one of her descendants.
Somehow Queen Bavmorda returns. Don't give me that.
That's where it's going. That's my that and that she's totally pregnant. Those are my predictions for the show.
Well, the pregnant thing, I think you're absolutely right. We got,
and I think that will tie in too.
Sure, we got a little hanky panky with the two characters beforehand. So absolutely.
Well, and and I think that it's going to fall in because she's chosen one, right? But we've also got we're bringing up the importance of bloodlines and that. So I think that this child is going to wind up being significant because it's going to be the yin and yang, going on.
I want to see also where Graydon's father, I guess the king of that kingdom, what his intentions is, because he throws his son into this quest and kind of tells him something to decide. I think he just wants to do this union between the two kingdoms and then take over. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that falls, when they break, because that Graydon's not gonna go with his fathers. He told Kid, once we're in charge, we don't have to do what our parents want. So
yeah, what a great line.
Yeah, I want to see where that goes.
Sure. Yeah. Andrew, what about you?
As far as predictions, I don't know if I've really got much beyond what's been said. What I want to see, though, is some fleshing out of the lore. You know me, I'm a lore person. I want to learn. We keep hearing about these different kingdoms, but we don't know anything about any of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. And my big question, has George Lucas seen this series yet?
Sure, why not?
And is Willow in the Star Wars universe?
Well, yeah, it's a good question.
I don't know.
Is Willow a Jedi?
It was kind of funny that when they were talking about, it's the lifeblood of the universe, and I was like,
well, no, you can 100%
sure.
see the kind of, and it's not because it's part of the Star Wars universe. It's that interest in religion and philosophy that bleeds through in Lucas's writing. He always said that one of the reasons he wrote Star Wars was to encourage young people to have an interest in religion and philosophy. And I think you could say the same thing about Willow. It's not as pointed in the Willow movie, but it's there.
Absolutely.
And you do see in this series, you see some of those same concepts of good and evil, which, it's a fantasy story. You're going to do that to some extent, most likely, but you see some very similar vibes to Star Wars in the things that Willow is saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think, Willow as an IP, I think, why did it take so long? Obviously, but, I think, obviously, Lucasfilm is poised, really well now to be able to explore some of their old properties. Streaming is such a great way to do that. Obviously, we got, a fleshed out galaxy far, far away, and I think hopefully Willow will do the same thing for this franchise, for this storyline there. Any questions from the chat group? I know we've been kind of picking and choosing some of the items that you guys have been saying, but any final moments for you guys? Any other things that you guys think that maybe we didn't talk about? What
No, I
about?
think-
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I think we covered most of it, but
How about some quick little ratings? 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, whatever you guys feel comfortable. I know we're only 2 episodes in, but
It just is. It's so hard to judge
sure.
2 episodes
Yeah.
because I mean,
Well,
like,
are you liking it overall, or do you think it's
Yeah.
just kind of too CW?
I'll give it, I think, a 7 out of 10 so far.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed it. I'm not over the moon like I was with Rings of Power or House of the Dragon. Again, very different shows, but
Mm-hmm.
I was into them. 2 episodes in, I was, yes, this is full on. I can't wait for the next one. So I really
Yeah.
enjoyed what we got. I'm not the biggest Willow fan from before, so I didn't have a lot of expectations. But I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm not dying like with Andor or something else. I want this year right now. I can wait, but I want to see where the story goes. I think 7 is a good score for me.
I'd agree. I'd give it 7 of 10 brownies.
There you go.
So I'm enjoying it. I want to see where it goes. I think the thing I'm most curious to see is in a year where fantasy has exploded,
Mhm.
how this
Yeah.
one is going to fare, because it's very different than the other fantasy offerings out there.
it's a very fairy tale. It's a much more traditional fantasy
Mhm.
story in
Yeah.
that it's
Right.
geared for a younger audience. I think it's a really good sequel to Willow, what Willow was in its own time.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. But it's, we had Rings of Power, which is just got better by the episode and ended up being just absolutely outstanding and received a lot of completely undue hate that people had largely decided to hate before it came out. I haven't watched House of the Dragon, heard nothing but really good things. So you have these more serious high fantasy epics out there. And so I hope something like this does really well, because there's a real place for this kind of fantasy storytelling as well.
Absolutely.
and-
It's much more of a family fare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Do you guys feel that in 5 or 10 years, Willow will be part of the fantasy lexicon? Like maybe not at the level of Lord of the Rings, but maybe some of the more, I don't know, commercially viable ones?
I mean, I hope so. If the story goes 3 or 4 seasons, if for some reason they say, this didn't do good enough numbers to do anything else, and it's 1 or 2 seasons, and they just end it to end it, then I don't think so. If it goes 4 or 5 seasons, which I think it's enough for a lot of these type of shows, it can be there. But I think, like we said before, it's a very different audience. That Game of Thrones is going to have, I don't know how many sequels and prequels or whatever. I don't know how much, at least so far with 2 episodes, how much this can branch out afterwards to keep this story going. We'll see.
Yeah.
But right now, if this is just one story that goes for 3 or 4 seasons, it can be there. Hey, let's go back and watch Willow. It depends. It might be able to branch out into more stories, TVs, maybe a movie, novels, or whatever. It all depends.
Yeah,
Sure.
So based on what makes the best fantasy, looking at things like Lord of the Rings, it tells a great story that people relate to, but it's also the depth of the world that's created. And that's when Lord of the Rings and even Star Wars, I mean, it's ultimately at its core of fantasy. At least the original trilogy is at its core of fantasy, with a really in-depth world. I would put Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. There's a few others up there, but as far as really great fantasy TV series, I mean, the most successful fantasy TV series of all time, excluding kind of the new Star Wars stuff that's starting to come out, which don't always fit into the fantasy category as much as the original trilogy. When you look at most popular fantasy series of all time, you're looking at things like the Legendary Journeys of Hercules, Xena Warrior Princess, things like that. This could easily be a top 10 fantasy television series when it's all said and done, easily.
Wait, wasn't Xena on CW?
I have no idea what that was on.
That's before CW.
Yeah.
UPM? No.
I used to watch it on the Sci-Fi Channel, so I don't know. Back when Sci-Fi Channel actually showed that sort of stuff. But I think for me, what it's going to really take to elevate it in the fantasy lexicon is more detailed storytelling
in a coherent world.
Yeah,
Like,
a fully fleshed out world.
Yeah.
And whether that's done through the series or books, I would actually like to see that done through some books.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But that's what modern fantasy audiences expect. They expect a coherent world.
Right, because Lord of the Rings is the standard, and there's really not much of a chance of that ever changing. And because that is the standard, you've got to flesh your world out.
Sure. Yeah, you and your books, Andrew. But you know what? I knew you were the right guy to ask that question. So thank you very much for that. Excellent. All right, let's wrap up. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Alberto, where can folks find you to check out your show? And I mentioned earlier you go on Saturdays, but tell the lovely folks in our chat how people can find you.
Yeah, I'll do like my co-host Oti does. You can see right down there at Radio Rebel Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and even Hive, even though I don't use it that much anymore. But you can find us there, again, Twitter and Instagram. And we go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern, mostly Star Wars talk. We did add a new segment at the end to talk about other things in this big world of fandom that we all love, that is in Star Wars. We took a break this week. We'll be back next Saturday at 6 p.m. with our trivia finale. And then we're going to take about a month-long break during the holidays. And then we'll back. Thank you, Lonely Girl. Those are Day 3. You can find everything there. We'll take a break during the holidays. We'll be back then on January. Probably mid-January will be our third season going live, or third year, I should say. And then our episodes go on podcast on Mondays. So live Saturdays on YouTube, Radio Rebellion podcast on YouTube, and then live on Mondays if you want to just listen to them. And thanks, Ro, for being here. I know it's been a while, but all just so you can throw my picture of my own meme that you took and you posted every time you can.
So if you do not follow Radio Rebel podcast, you get one of these. Absolutely. Go follow. Andrew and Merisha, the first family of the Red 5 Network. Where can folks find you?
Let you give your stuff real quick.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm princesses_and_Padawans. And, every month or so, I'm P Padawans on Twitter. Occasionally, I have something to say that isn't appropriate for Facebook. So that's what my Twitter account is for.
Wow.
All right, nice. So you can find me running the Twitter account for this show for our show, Sci_Fictionary on Twitter. You can find us at sciencefictionary.com, where you can find links to all of our shows, both podcasts, Science Fictionary and Coruscant Radio Underground. You can find both shows under our YouTube channel at the Science Fictionary. You can, let's see, what else?
That's most of it, I think.
I think that
you usually get the spiel with the whole Red 5 thing.
Yeah, but Ro's going to do that.
So Ro can do that.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Absolutely. We love talking geek stuff, and I want to thank our wonderful panel of guests, and as well as the folks in the chat. You guys are always great over there. Sometimes they got their own show going in the chat, but big thanks to everybody. I want to encourage everybody to listen to all of our shows. But me personally, Brad, Shanti, and I are trying to see if we can get to 35,000 downloads on our podcast by the end of the year. We are almost there. So big thanks to everybody who listens to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. We're going to drop this audio in our podcatchers as well on Tuesday. So if you're not a YouTube person, you don't want to see our lovely faces, you want to hear our voices, you'll be able to do that on Tuesday. So check that out. on our road to 35,000 downloads. Thank you so much for that. And then obviously our regular drops are on Thursday. We just released a kind of a little tribute episode of Batman the Animated Series and a tribute to Kevin Conroy, a wonderful voice actor that we just recently lost. And some more quick cuts episode. We got a lot of great topics and friends that are coming on the show to chat with us. Chat and guests, thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. We are part of the Red 5 Network. Check out the rest of our shows at bio.link/Red5 or red5network.com. Until then, Alberto, Andrew, Merisha, I am Ro, and that is the Scuttlebutt. Take care, everybody.